On the 4th of August 2020, in the capital of Lebanon, the city of Beirut, everything starts normally. People wake up, go to work, and in the afternoon they return home from work. No one knew today would be a special day for Beirut. Not even this lady, Isra Seblani, who had gotten ready to take her pre-wedding photos. In the middle of the photo shoot, the clock hits 6:08 p.m. When 18 seconds pass from 6:08 p.m., suddenly all of Lebanon changes forever.
Oh my god! Oh my god, oh my god! Oh my god! Holy fuck! Oh shit! What the?
A few minutes before 6 p.m. in one of the hangars of the Beirut Port docks, a fire breaks out. The fire spreads so much that people from nearby buildings can see the smoke rising from it and start recording videos. Even those who are at sea on boats and other vessels see this massive smoke and begin filming. It is said that this fire was caused by welding on the door of one of the storage hangars, and a spark falling inside the hangar caused the fire. Immediately, Beirut's fire department is notified to urgently put out this fire, and they are told this warehouse probably contains fireworks and similar items. For this reason, 9 fire trucks from Beirut's fire department quickly head to the port. They had no idea they were heading into the heart of hell. When the firefighters open the warehouse door and start extinguishing the fire, they realize this is not fireworks and similar items. There is only a white powder burning here. They contact their central office and ask, "What is this white powder?" They are still speaking to their center when suddenly a massive explosion occurs. When we say a massive explosion, we mean truly massive. Many people don't know that this explosion was the largest non-nuclear explosion in history. They say its power was 10% of the Hiroshima bomb, meaning the Hiroshima bomb was 10 times more powerful than this. So it was truly terrifying. Now that we are talking about explosion power, you should also know that a hydrogen bomb is over 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. Hiroshima bomb, 10x Beirut explosion. Hydrogen bomb, 1000x Hiroshima bomb. Seeing this Beirut explosion helps you imagine what those other explosions were like. Now let's go back to Beirut again. After this explosion, 218 people from the population of Beirut, whether firefighters, employees or ordinary people, are instantly killed. 7,000 people are instantly injured. Some are badly hurt, some have glass shards in their faces, and some are in shock. Now let's go to the warehouse and see what kind of fireworks or dynamite caused such an explosion. Very soon, it became clear that this was not a fireworks warehouse, but a chemical fertilizer storage. 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate had been stored in this hangar. Of course, initially, no official announcement was made about what caused the explosion, but experts knew from day one the smoke after the explosion was red-brown in color, and red-brown smoke means ammonium nitrate. The blast wave was so powerful that it shattered the windows of Beirut Airport 8 kilometers away. The sound of the explosion was even heard in Cyprus, an island about 200 kilometers from Beirut. Now let's see what happened around this explosion. First, all buildings within a 600-meter radius were almost completely leveled. Even the blast wave capsized ships anchored at the port. Many of them were practically sunk. After such incidents and ships sinking this way, these ships are usually beyond repair and must be scrapped. When the explosion occurred, a huge crater 150 meters deep was created beneath it, and since it was near the sea, it was immediately filled with seawater. That means the hangar with all its equipment turned into part of the sea. If you looked at Beirut after this explosion, you would have felt like an atomic bomb had hit here, because when you looked around, everything was destroyed. This explosion also made rescue efforts extremely difficult because Beirut's electricity and water were completely cut off. The explosion happened at 6 p.m. and darkness was quickly falling. Now there were also many corpses and injured people under the rubble, and without electricity and clear passageways, rescuing them was very difficult. Officials thought the first thing they should do was clear the roads and streets, because everywhere was full of rubble and overturned vehicles, just like after an atomic bomb. That's why bulldozers and loaders were mobilized to first clear the roads. At this moment, all hospitals in Beirut, even the hallways and entrances, were full of casualties from this disaster. And even 3 of Beirut's hospitals did not survive the explosion. Most of their rooms were unusable because the windows were shattered and rooms were in disarray. For this reason, many nurses and doctors came to the hospital parking lots and basements and began helping the injured, all by flashlight. There was no electricity. Now, in this disastrous situation, 200,000 residents of Beirut were also left homeless, their homes completely destroyed, and they had nowhere to sleep at night. The bankrupt Lebanese government could do nothing. When people saw no help was coming, 5 days after the incident, when they had slightly gathered themselves, they started protesting and demonstrating, chanting, "You caused this explosion and you're not even helping us."
Believe a government-led inquiry into the disaster won't hold senior officials accountable.
After the initial investigation, it was revealed that in the warehouse where the explosion occurred, there were 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, barrels of kerosene, containers of hydrochloric acid, and 15 tons of fireworks. So the initial assumption that there were fireworks there was correct, but they played no major role in this disaster. When experts examined the remains of the hangar, they discovered it had neither proper electrical wiring nor fire suppression sprinklers, which are critical for a port warehouse, especially one storing fuel, fireworks, acid, and highly dangerous ammonium nitrate. The ammonium nitrate stored in this warehouse was kept extremely poorly, piled up in plastic bags. Not for a month or a year, but for 7 years. We said ammonium nitrate is basically fertilizer. It's neither rare nor very expensive. But why was such a thing stored this way for 7 years? You should know that ammonium nitrate is usually not stored near residential areas. It's typically kept in out-of-town warehouses, stored properly. But this warehouse was located within 1 kilometer of where more than 10,000 people lived, practically in the middle of the city. Now, why was this nitrate even brought to this warehouse? Why wasn't it used or stored elsewhere? This story starts in 2013, when a Russian cargo ship called Rosus set sail from Georgia, heading to Mozambique via the Black Sea, through the Mediterranean, and into the Atlantic Ocean. But the shipping company had some additional cargo for Mozambique waiting in Beirut. So they told Rosus to stop in Beirut and pick up these shipments too. The captain agreed and headed to Beirut. At that time, the 2750 tons of ammonium nitrate, later stored in the Beirut warehouse, was aboard the Rosus. When Rosus arrived in Beirut Port, it developed mechanical problems, basically broke down, and couldn't load the additional cargo and continue its journey. That meant a massive load of explosive material was brought to Beirut, and now the ship was stuck. Beirut Port contacted the ship owner, asking them to remove the ship or pay parking fees. It didn't take long for the Lebanese to realize the shipping company had gone completely bankrupt. If the ship hadn't broken down, it would have left. But now that it was broken, the company couldn't pay for repairs. So the ship remained in Beirut Port. The port eventually seized the ship and unloaded all its cargo into a warehouse, 2750 tons of ammonium nitrate. Maybe you'll say the ship owner took these, but this ship owner didn't even have a sigh left to trade with a groan and eat it himself. Now maybe you'll ask what happened to the Russian crew of the ship. Poor guys stranded. They have no money, they don't have proper documents to get off in Beirut and go about their business. That's why they lived on this ship for 11 months. That too with misery and hardship. Kind of like the port was giving them charity food, so they wouldn't starve to death. Finally, after 11 months, a contact between Lebanon and Russia, they arranged for them to return to Russia. The Lebanese government took them to the airport, put them on a plane and sent them back to Russia. Now those 4 people were saved, and that's not a big deal. But they left behind something that's threatening all of Beirut. And the port workers know this too. That's why they started writing letters to the government, saying you have to do something about this cargo, because it's dangerous. It either has to be used, or sold, or sent somewhere else. They sent dozens of letters to the government, but not a single one was answered, and nothing was done. The port workers couldn't do anything either, because who was going to pay for the shipment to be moved? A year passed just like that, until we reached 2014. At this time, the head of Beirut Port Customs, Shafiq Merhi, sent a letter to the Urgent Matters Judge in the Lebanese judiciary and wrote, "Please do something. A dangerous explosive material, and a large amount of it, is being stored at the Beirut port, and this is very dangerous for the city. Please do something as soon as possible." You may not believe it. They didn't answer this either. Beirut Customs staff gathered and said, "What should we do? Let's find a solution." But there was nothing they could do, except keep writing letters. Slowly this issue was forgotten, because when the port workers saw no response, they gradually withdrew into their shells and forgot about it, until we reached 2020, when one of the doors of the warehouse where the ammonium nitrate was stored broke, and they called a welder. The welder, who didn't know what was behind the door, started welding the door, and part of the welding spark fell behind the door, and the warehouse caught fire. After this fire, you already know what happened. A complete lack of responsibility, of course, from the Lebanese government, because there's proof that the port workers tried their best, but no one responded to them, and eventually they gave up. Maybe you'll ask why some countries are poor. It's because of this very lack of responsibility, the negligence of the Lebanese government in solving this issue. And ultimately, this massive explosion caused more than 15 billion in damage to Lebanon's fragile economy. And even now, almost 5 years after the incident, Beirut still hasn't recovered. It's still kind of a half-ruined city, even though once upon a time Beirut was the bride of Middle Eastern cities. Those who knew Beirut in the 60s and 70s know what we're talking about. Of course, I haven't seen it myself, but I've read modern Lebanese history. We said before the explosion, the Lebanese government didn't care about anything. After the explosion, it was the same. They didn't care about anything. No proper accountability, no planning to rebuild the city. This woman whose wedding photos got caught in the explosion. She's a doctor. After the explosion and Lebanon's chaos, you might not believe it, but she didn't even have time to change her wedding dress. She went to the hospital in the same dress to help people. A month later, she and her husband immigrated to America. Do you see this statue? No one knows who built it. They say some people in Lebanon made it. The materials used to make this statue are glass shards and metal fragments from the explosion. They even installed a clock at the bottom of it, showing the moment of the explosion. This statue has now become a memorial to the 218 people who lost their lives in the very first moments.